Good evening, hello and welcome. You're with the news today, your primetime destination. Newsmakers, talking points. Our big talking point this Monday night is coming from the United States. The assassination attempt on the former US President Donald Trump. Has it completely changed the US presidential race? Will this lead to sympathy for Donald Trump? Is he now the clear frontrunner? And what are the implications of the political polarization that's taking place in the United States and indeed beyond the US as well? But first today, our top focus is the United States and the fallout of that assassination attempt on the former US President Donald Trump, now of course the Republican candidate for this year's presidency. The US Secret Service Chief Kimberly Chiatel, in her first public statement since the assassination bid, said the government agency is open to an independent review. Chiatel also said that Trump's security detail has been changed. The FBI has intensified the probe into the Trump attack. The investigating agency saying that while the evidence currently points towards a lone wolf shooter, the FBI will scrutinize the suspect's phone and dig deeper into his everyday life. Donald Trump has confirmed that he will speak at this week's Republican National Convention following the assassination attempt on him on Sunday. The former US president said he's rewriting his speech and his GOP convention address will be a call for unity. US President Joe Biden delivered a special address after the attack on Trump. Biden said America must not go down the road of political violence. He also said the political rhetoric in US has heated up. It's time to cool down political temperatures. A federal judge has dismissed the classified documents case against Donald Trump, a shock ruling that clears one of the major legal challenges facing the former president. But our top story today, a day after the failed assassination bid against White House frontrunner, former President Donald Trump, it appears that the attack has changed the course of the presidential race that will take place in November this year. Donald Trump today said it's the hand of God that saved him. While the motive behind this crime is still unknown, support is mounting for the former president, with his Make America Great Again election campaign now galvanizing his voter base. How will the Democrats respond? And is the US presidential race now, as some are calling it, a done deal really? It's our top focus tonight.
Take a look at what happened.
This moment is already being described as the iconic image of the 2024 presidential election. Donald Trump, his head held high, fist raised, with the American flag fluttering in the background, minutes after a bullet grazed his right ear. The former US president, who had a narrow escape from death, presented a picture of a leader in command. The assassination bid in itself has changed the election equations. Prepared speeches are being junked. New speeches are being prepared as the Republicans and Democrats rewrite their scripts for the campaign. Trump, in his first interview after the attack on him, told the Washington Examiner his initial speech for the Republican convention in Milwaukee this week was aimed mostly at the policies of President Joe Biden. He added, "Honestly, it's going to be a whole different speech now. This is a chance to bring the whole country, even the whole world, together." Trump had turned to look at the data board while giving the speech when the bullet was fired. The movement saved his life. Describing those moments, Trump said, "The energy coming from the people there in that moment, they just stood there. It's hard to describe what that felt like. But I knew the world was looking. I knew that history would judge this, and I knew I had to let them know we are okay."
Last night,
President Joe Biden addressed the nation on Sunday, calling for a lowering of political temperature.
The need for us to lower the temperature in our politics. And to remember, while we may disagree, we are not enemies. We're neighbors, we're friends, co-workers, citizens, and most importantly, we're our fellow Americans. But politics must never be a literal battlefield, and God forbid, a killing field. Stand up for our Constitution and the rule of law. To call for action at the ballot box. No violence on our streets.
All eyes are now on Trump. What will he tell his charged-up supporters at the Republican convention? How long will this message of unity last in a country that is divided like never before? Bureau Report, India Today.
Let's raise the big questions tonight. How does the assassination bid on the former US president change the crucial American presidential race? Is Donald Trump now the clear frontrunner? Is the liberal versus right-wing fight in the United States and beyond getting more and more bitter? Is political polarization in the United States now at its worst? Some of the questions we will raise. Meera Shankar, former Indian ambassador to the United States, is with us. Ajay Jain Bhutoria is Deputy National Finance Chair of the Democratic Party and part of the Biden-Harris 2024 campaign. We'll also be joined by Puneet Ahluwalia, political and business strategist and former Republican candidate for Lieutenant Governor in Virginia. And John Rossomando, American National Security Analyst, is with us. We also hope to be joined by Raymond Vickery, Senior Associate Chair in U.S.-India Policy Studies at the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington. Appreciate all of you joining us. And I want to start with you, Mr. Vickery, because you're there in Washington, and give us your sense of what the last 24 hours have meant for the U.S. presidential race. Is now Donald Trump, after what happened to him, likely to garner sympathy, likely to be able to consolidate the Republican Party and push it towards victory in 2024?
Well, thanks very much for having me. I think it has been a momentous 24 hours. I thought the president hit exactly the right notes of nonviolence, really the principles of Mahatma Gandhi, which ought to be applied not only internally in domestic politics here and in India and throughout the world, but internationally as well. Having said that, it's clear that Donald Trump is on a roll, both from the debate and today, of course, the dismissal of the documents case, but he's a consummate reality TV actor, and he has shown that again in terms of the pictures which have gone out. A lot is, of course, yet to be determined. A lot will be determined today in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, when Trump is supposed to announce his vice president candidate. If he picks somebody like Senator J.D. Vance, who has blamed this assassination attempt squarely on Biden, that takes us down a very dark road. If he gets somebody who is more moderate, adheres to some principles, then that will indicate something else. I would say that, of course, Donald Trump is in the lead now, and we are still divided. But I would say that we got another 3-4 months to go here. And we have seen from these kinds of attempted killings and killings across the United States that the public attention quickly wanes. I mean, we ought to be talking about outlawing AR-15s, getting guns off the streets. We're not talking about that and the issues at all. The hope for Joe Biden and the Democrats is that we will get back to issues. We'll get back not only to gun control, but climate change, all of those things which are existential threats to democracy. But now's the time for great democracies like the United States and India to stand together for the principles of Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and take democratic politics forward.
Raymond Vickery, let me hold you to that thought, because you named two individuals there, two great individuals, Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, both of whom were assassinated tragically. So therefore, apostles of peace have often found it very difficult to control those who practice the politics of violence. John Rossomando, you're an American national security analyst. For a moment, just rewind to what happened 24 hours ago. There's now talk of the need for gun control, the need to look at the manner in which politics has divided the American people, the politics of violence has been unleashed. What's your sense of what happened 24 hours ago? Was this a lone wolf operating, or do you believe that this politics of violence has created the possibility of groups who are out there to, in a way, extract vengeance, extract retribution?
Well, let's put it this way. The blame for the assassination attempt falls squarely on the Democratic Party, which has described MAGA supporters of Donald Trump as extremists, as people who are fascists, dangerous to our society, has described President Trump as a wannabe dictator, has gone on and completely demonized the former president. I mean, the Democrats have done everything from putting together a hoax to frame President Trump as a Russian spy. And MSNBC, which is one of the more radical networks on American television, just banned one of his top programs that had been part of the bile that inspired all of this.
But isn't it true, Mr. Rosomando, that the same Donald Trump, while no one should sort of hold a candle for anyone who advocates any kind of violence, this is the same president, or this is the same former president, when as president, actually actively encouraged a political insurrection of violence for which he's still facing charges. So he unleashed these forces of violence.
Well, excuse me, but President Trump said to go patriotically and peacefully to protest, which is part of a democratic process. But you ended up having inadequate security at the Capitol, and you ended up having the Capitol Police put tear gas into a crowd that had not been violent up to that point, and what you ended up was a riot. Prior to then, the Democrats looked the other way throughout all of 2020 in the summertime, when we had over $1 billion worth of damages done by demonstrators who they supported. So the whole thing that the Democratic Party cares about political violence, it's just silly. It doesn't care about political violence.
You're saying the Democratic Party has incited political violence, because there are some reports to suggest the shooter may be someone who had a Republican background.
Well, whatever this guy said on his voter registration. But if you look at what he said on TikTok, he said that he hated Republicans, he hated conservatives. So the idea that this guy is some sort of Republican is absolutely silly.
Okay, Ajay Jain Bhuturia, your Deputy National Finance Chair, the Democratic Party and the Biden-Harris campaign. You've just heard Mr. Rosomando suggest that the Democrats have unleashed a politics of hate and violence towards Donald Trump, which has resulted, they believe, at least the language of hate and violence, and this has resulted in what we saw yesterday. Remember, Joe Biden not too long ago said Donald Trump must be stopped at all costs, a statement that might come to haunt the Democratic Party.
Well, Rajdeep, I strongly condemn this act of political violence or violence of any kind. I belong to Jainism, from where Mahatma Gandhi and then Martin Luther King took the whole concepts of non-violence. So I belong to that religions, and I strongly condemn this, and I am glad that President Trump is doing well. And I echo President Biden's message that if we settle in America differences through ballot and through voters, not through bullets. And we do have a strong, difference of policies. And the two presidencies, if we compare between Trump's presidency and Biden's presidency, there's a major difference. And President Biden has been only echoing what Trump has said recently in his speeches. And today is not the time, but I still have to say it, that he said that he's going to be dictator day one. He's going to be ban abortion nationwide, with or without Congress. He said that he's going to repeal Obamacare and take away health care from many. He also said that he's going to slash Social Security, he's going to remove FBI, and so on and on. He's going to abandon NATO. So all this combined together and many more are a threat to democracy. And that's what President Biden has been pointing out clearly, that in order to save our democracy, in order to save things, we have to defeat Trump. And that's part of the differences in the policy between the two candidates. And that's normal. The Democrats never incite violence. The violence had been incited by Trump on January 6th. What we saw, he was not ready to accept the election result even till today. And so what happened to the security lapse with the yesterday? That's very wrong. That's unacceptable. It should have never happened. A senior presidential candidate should have been more secured But at the same time, there's a difference in the policies, and that will continue through next 3
Okay,
months, and we'll see that.
let me stop you for a moment. Meera Shankar, you're listening to these voices coming in from the United States, and they reflect what has been happening in the United States over the last several months. The growing polarization in that country between those who want Donald Trump as president, those who don't want him. He's become this polarizing figure. How do you see the assassination attempt changing that? This underlying sense of violence, of deep divides between liberal voices and right-wing voices in the United States in the build-up now to the 2024 presidential race there?
Well, clearly the US is highly polarized politically at this juncture. And we've seen that in the very sharp rhetoric and invective which has been apparent during this contest. In the past, too, there have been periods when the US has been more polarized than today. For instance, in the 60s, when there was this whole issue of civil rights and enforcing an end to segregation. And you saw the assassination of, John Kennedy, of Martin Luther King, and of Bobby Kennedy, because emotions and opinions were so fraught on this issue. Go back further to the abolition of slavery, which eventually led to a civil war in the United States, and finally to the assassination of President Lincoln. In recent years, recent decades, I think levels of political polarization had come down. But in the last 10, 15 years, we've seen, again, a rise in polarization and differences on a range of policy issues, from immigration to taxation to climate change. You see...
But there's a difference between having differences on policy issues, but the personalization of politics. Isn't that the troubling aspect now? It's very personal and therefore very bitter and polarized.
Yes, it is. And I think following the assassination attempt, President Biden has made an effort to calm things down, to say that there can be no place for political violence in the United States, that differences must be settled through the ballot box, and political contests cannot be a battlefield, much less a killing field. And this is the time for America to come together. President Trump has surprisingly also echoed similar sentiments when he said that he's redrafting his speech for the Republican convention, because earlier he was planning to attack Joe Biden's policies, but now he's going to make a call for Americans to come together and be united. I mean, we still have to wait and see what he says, but it's a moment where both the leaders are reflecting on the need to lower the rhetoric and to cool temperatures.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm just going to stop you for a moment, because let's listen into some of that rhetoric, because we've heard both sides in the last few months target each other, and I'll get all my guests to reflect upon that. Does an assassination attempt in a way ensure a lowering of temperatures, or does it increase the emotional pitch? Listen into how Biden and Trump have been taking each other on during the campaign prior to this assassination attempt.
Most importantly, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, Trump is a threat to this nation.
What they're doing to our country is not even believable. That's why Florida is going to defeat the radical left Democrat hoaxers and liars, and the election day, we are going to tell crooked Joe Biden, Joe, you've done a horrible job. You're fired. Get out, Joe. You're fired.
So one side calls the other a threat. The other side says you're crooks, you're liars. This kind of Raymond Vickery polarized rhetoric has continued for very long, and you saw the response, audiences cheering them on. The fact is, this has been happening. Now it's all very well to dial down. Did it require an assassination attempt for suddenly both sides to realize that it's time to dial down?
Well, I think that that should be the reaction, and we'll have to to see. But your Republican representative today on this program has shown by his remarks just a few minutes ago what we're up against in terms of, well, it's all the Democrats' fault. They did this, they did that. And as you've pointed out, though, the attack of January the 6th was not just a peaceful protest. It was a call by Donald Trump to get to the Capitol and be wild and trying to undermine democracy through the big lie. So hopefully we can get past these things, but the next week is going to be very crucial in what happens after that. We are by no means out of the woods on this one, but if we'll follow what Joe Biden has said from the Oval Office, and if Donald Trump will do what he has said in terms of rewriting and calming this down, we may be able to move forward.
But I still, let me persist by asking you this, and then I'll come to you, Mr. Rosmondo. The fact is, Mr. Vickery, these are comments which I just played out, which have been said. When Joe Biden says that Donald Trump is a threat, what is effectively being sent to, in a way, possibly Americans out there who will then be worried if Donald Trump comes back, you could see a repeat of what happened in January of 2020, the so-called insurrection on Capitol Hill. All of this plays into fears. All of this plays into fears. Is that not something that the Democrats will, in a way, be haunted by now?
Well, it's what the whole country is haunted by. It's not what so much was said on January 6th. It's actually what happened. We have to be able to try to get past this. But I would point out this. The United States has been through some really bad times in the past. I was to go with Bobby Kennedy to the Chicago Convention before he was assassinated and be on his staff. So I know this personally, and we've seen this. But America has been in the past able to pull it together. And we need support at this time. We need support from other democracies like India. We need support from the people who are able to see a greater vision other than, am I going to get elected tomorrow? And I think that can happen. Whether it will or whether it'll go another way, we have to see.
Mr. Rosmondo, Donald Trump for a long time has symbolized, particularly to the Democrats, all that's going wrong in America. And January 2020 was an example of that. He's now accused, you've heard Mr. Vickery suggest, and others suggest, or the Democratic representative suggest, he started it. Now this name calling, this constant name calling, it's not like Donald Trump, while Joe Biden says that Donald Trump is a threat to America or the American Constitution, you've had Republicans use all kinds of invectives against Democrats as well. Who's going to dial down? Is the Republican strategy now, let's get as much of sympathy as possible because of what happened yesterday?
Well, let's put it this way. The Democrats fabricated a conspiracy theory that Donald Trump was a Russian agent. Hillary Clinton's campaign hired Fusion GPS to fabricate in collusion with a Russian spy to say that he was a spy. Then also you have these really weak charges that have been leveled against President Trump. January 6th is the only thing they have to hang their hat on, while ignoring the fact that their rhetoric and their actions have supported political violence. Democrats don't care about political violence. They care about using political violence as a trope. Also, the Democratic representative from California claimed that Trump said he would be a dictator. Trump is a way of just being sarcastic, and the Democrats always take what he says sarcastically as being somehow literal. Trump does not support the outlawing of abortion by executive fiat. He believes that the FBI should be reformed, and that partisan Democrats shouldn't be the ones pushing partisan investigations.
You know, you're hearing, Meera Shankar, these alternate viewpoints being expressed by American voices. You could argue this could happen in India as well. Hyper-partisanship, hyper-polarization is creating, many believe, a more violent society out there, potentially more violent. Do you go along with that, that really is at the core of what's happening in the United States and possibly across democracies in the world? And in the age of social media, it gets even further aggravated. Just look at social media over the last 24 hours, the kind of comments that are being made targeting Democrats at the moment, virtually blaming them for for this assassination attempt.
Yes, I definitely believe that politics and governance in the age of social media has become far more fraught, far more polarized, because what we have is an echo chamber which reinforces opinions in a sharper way on both sides, and neither side sees what the other side is thinking, because there are two parallel tracks which never meet. So while social media was supposed to democratize politics by providing access to information to a much wider public and allowing that public to express its views, it's actually ended up through the algorithms reinforcing sharp divides in all countries. And I think we're still coming to grips with it. How to deal with this, I think, is an issue which is going to be very much with us in all democracies in the near future.
You know, Ajay Singh Bhuturia, have the Democrats, in a way, now reconciled to the fact it won't be easy now for you to attack Donald Trump in the next few months, even on policies, because he will now play the sympathy card. The moment he's attacked, he and his supporters will say, look, there go the Democrats targeting us. As a result of their targeting, it results in assassination attempts. So would you concede the last 24 hours have pushed the Democrats now on the back foot, irrespective of what Joe Biden has said?
I will say what happened is, again, unfortunate. It should have never happened. An attack on Trump should have never happened. The lapse of security. But I will also say, President Biden fought the 2020 election with the slogan, restore the soul of the nation. There was so much healing needed at the time of 2020. And in the last 3.5 years, President Biden has been able to heal the nation to a great extent.
But what happens next? What happens next? Have the last 24 hours changed this US presidential race almost irrevocably?
Well, definitely. I mean, it has given an opportunity for both the leaders to come together and say the country needs to be united, country needs to be healed, and this needs to be lowered down. The temperature needs to be lowered down. But then still the Democrats will continue on the issues. Democrats wants to take off the very same weapon, AR-15, which was used to attack President Trump or the schools or the colleges or places of worship. We want to take off those weapons from the street. The Republicans
so you're saying this will trigger off a debate, for example, on gun control. Those are the issues you believe which this incident will trigger off. The Republicans, of course, believe that this now has a larger political message and therefore advantage Trump. Quick last word from you, Mr. Vickery. Will this lead to, is Donald Trump now the clear front runner?
Donald Trump, of course, is the front runner, but is it irrevocable? No, it is not. There's a long way to go, and I believe there is goodness and saner. The very charge that's been made that Democrats don't care about violence and want to use it is just not acceptable. And hopefully there will be people, Republicans and Democrats, who will reject that and lead us forward in a more positive way.
Okay, let me leave it there. I've heard 4 voices from different parts of the world, including 3 from the United States. And clearly the message is to try and bring America together again. But can that healing touch be applied given the kind of polarization that we've seen in the United States over the last few months? That's going to be the big question blowing in the wind. I appreciate all my guests joining me here on the News Today. Let's look at that question now in terms of political assassinations over the years. This is not the first time the United States or indeed world leaders who've survived or fallen dead due to assassination attempts. From John F. Kennedy in the 1960s to more recently in this country, Indira Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi, assassinations have changed the course of political mandates more than once. This begs the question if the failed assassination bid against Donald Trump will also change the tide of that election in America. Take a look at this special report on just how assassination bids play out in the political world.
Political assassinations and attempts have always left an indelible mark on a country's political history, sometimes remarkably affecting the political mandates that have followed them. US saw its most infamous assassination when over 1.5 centuries ago, President Abraham Lincoln was gunned down. Lincoln was shot by slavery sympathizer John Wilkes Booth, a member of one of America's most renowned families of actors. Roosevelt was the first former president to be shot while campaigning for a return to office. The former Republican had formed the Blue Moose Party to fight the election. He was fired at while on his way to address a public meet in Milwaukee on October 14, 1912. A metal eyeglasses case and a 50-page speech kept in his pocket took the sting out of the bullet. Roosevelt gave his speech with the bullet still in his chest, with these famous words: "Friends, I shall ask you to be as quiet as possible. I don't know whether you fully understand that I have just been shot, but it takes more than that to kill a bull moose." Roosevelt's speech made history, but he lost the election. But it was President John F. Kennedy's killing in 1963, seen on screens across the world, which made the world numb. His accused killer was Lee Harvey Oswald, a former US Marine who had embraced leftist ideology and defected for a time to the Soviet Union. After Kennedy's assassination, Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson was elevated to top post. In 1964, the Democratic Party and Johnson won the presidency with a stunning 61% of the vote and had the widest popular margin in American history, more than 1.5 crore votes.
My fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
In 1981, then US President Ronald Reagan was shot but escaped death. The shooter was 30-year-old John Hinckley. Hinckley said that he wanted to shoot President Reagan to impress actress Jodie Foster. In November 1984, Reagan won a second term. In 1984, back home, the assassination of Prime Minister Indira Gandhi by her Sikh bodyguard led to the 1984 anti-Sikh riots. Politically riding a nationwide tsunami of sympathy, the Congress led by Rajiv Gandhi won 414 seats. 1991, a day after the first round of polling on 20th May, former Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated. The Congress that trailed in the first phase rode a sympathy wave of public grief to sweep the second phase. In our neighbourhood, Sri Lankan President Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga was targeted in a terror attack by the LTTE on December 18, 1999. She lost an eye but won the election held 3 days later. More recently, Bolsonaro was stabbed in the abdomen on 6 September 2018 while campaigning. Months later, on 1 January 2019, he was sworn in as the President of Brazil. The trend of political murders is one of the most potent challenges to security agencies across the world. While politically mostly it has worked as an elixir for those who have survived the attempt, and for their political parties, if they did not survive, the price though is too high to pay. With Preeti Chaudhary, Bureau Report, India Today.
The tragic tale of political assassinations. Let's turn from there to our other big story at home. The heat is mounting on IAS officer Puja Khedkar and her family. Her mother, whose video threatening a farmer with a pistol went viral, is now missing. So is her father, who had declared assets worth 40 crores. Puja Khedkar, in the eye of the storm, is silenced on the charges of furnishing fake OBC and disability certificates to get into the IAS. Take a look.
More revelations in the IAS Puja Khedkar case. The IAS trainee had allegedly claimed to be visually impaired in her affidavit to the Union Public Service Commission for the Civil Services exam. But Khedkar made no mention of disability when she sought admission in medical college before that.
उन्होंने 83 कैटेगरी में एडमिशन लिया था, बिलोंगिंग टू वंजारी कम्युनिटी. तो उसके कास्ट सर्टिफिकेट है, वैलिडिटी है, कास्ट वैलिडिटी और नॉन क्रीमी लेयर सर्टिफिकेट है.
अभी जब वो यूपीएससी अपीयर कर रही है तब उसे मेंटल इलनेस हो या फिर मल्टीपल डिसेबिलिटीज हो, ये अलग अलग दिखाई दे रहे हैं. क्या आपके पास उसका कुछ उस वक्त का मेडिकल फिटनेस के सर्टिफिकेट अवेलेबल है जिसमें ऐसे कुछ उसका जिक्र किया हुआ है?
मेडिकल फिटनेस सर्टिफिकेट तो देना ही पड़ता है, उसका है अपने पास. और उसमें डिसेबिलिटी कोई हाँ है. और उसके लिए डिसेबिलिटी सर्टिफिकेट कोई नहीं है, इसके लिए सेपरेट सर्टिफिकेट लगता है, वो नहीं है हमारे पास. एंड एब्सेंस ऑफ डिसेबिलिटीज लिखा है उसमें.
Trouble is now mounting for Puja's family as well. The Khedkars are now caught in another controversy over a land dispute. The Pune police claim Puja's parents are on the run and have switched off their mobile phones. Police teams are searching for the couple in Pune and nearby areas. 3 teams have been formed to trace them, but so far the whereabouts of Dilip Khedkar and Manorama Khedkar remain unknown.
उनके खिलाफ पौड़ पुलिस स्टेशन में एफआईआर दर्ज है. वो सिलसिले में हम उनको ढूंढ रहे हैं. उनके पास वो क्राइम के अगेंस्ट इंक्वायरी करना है. और यहाँ आए हैं तो लॉक है उनका घर और उनके मोबाइल नंबर भी स्विच ऑफ लग रहा है.
The situation escalated for the Khedkars after a video showing Puja's mother Manorama Khedkar threatening a farmer with a firearm went viral. The farmer alleged that the Khedkars had encroached his land and hired goons to beat him up.
Newly launched FIR says that section 504, 506 criminal intimidation has already been added in the newly FIR. But now, interestingly, Traffic Police Department has seized the Audi with the beacon. Secondly, Pune CP has issued notice to Manorama Khedkar under the violation of Arms Act.
The police have also seized an Audi car used by Puja Khedkar. The vehicle was found with a red and blue beacon, a VIP number plate and Maharashtra government written on it, all in violation of the Motor Vehicles Act and what Puja Khedkar is entitled to as an IAS officer trainee. Puja is silent on the allegations against her and her family.
जो भी जांच कमेटी है उनके सामने I will keep all my things.
As the search for Manorama and her husband continues, the controversy surrounding the Khedkar family escalates. A government panel is already investigating whether Puja Khedkar got a disability certificate and non-creamy layer OBC certificate in violation of norms to get selected into the IAS. The whole saga has exposed serious issues of power misuse. With Omkar Wable in Pune, Bureau Report, India Today.
To our top political story, knives are out in the BJP as it reviews the party's poll debacle in Uttar Pradesh in this year's 2024 Lok Sabha polls. Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, under pressure, admitted today that it's overconfidence that led to the BJP decline in the state. But his deputy, KP Maurya, has stirred a controversy by suggesting Sangathan Sarkar se bada hai statement, that the organization is bigger than the government, saying that the BJP as an organization is and always will be bigger than the government. Meanwhile, OBC leaders who are allies of the BJP in UP have said that the party ignored their interests.
लेकिन जैसा वोटों की शिफ्टिंग होती है और कहीं पर जब हम लोग ये मान करके चलते हैं कि आत्मविश्वास में कि हम तो जीत ही रहे हैं, तो स्वाभाविक रूप से वहां पर कहीं ना कहीं हमें खामियाजा भी भुगतना पड़ता है।
मैं सदा कहता था और आज इस प्रदेश कार्य समिति में मैं संगठन के वरिष्ठता हमारे देश के और प्रदेश के नेतृत्व के सामने कह रहा हूं, संगठन सरकार से बड़ा है। संगठन से बड़ा कोई नहीं होता है। संगठन सरकार से बड़ा है, बड़ा था, बड़ा रहेगा।
Joining me now is Kumar Abhishek, who is in Lucknow at the moment, our Lucknow Bureau Chief. Kumar Abhishek, पिछले 2 दिन से ये समीकरण हो रहा है, रिव्यू हो रहा है बीजेपी का, लेकिन ये लगता है कहीं ना कहीं दिल्ली बनाम लखनऊ एक लड़ाई शुरू हो गई है। कुछ लोग योगी जी पर जिम्मेदारी ठहरा रहे हैं कि योगी जी की वजह से बीजेपी के सीट कम हुए। वहीं विदाउट सेइंग इट इन पब्लिक, पीपल आर सेइंग नहीं, यहां दिल्ली की लीडरशिप क्या कर रही थी, कौन टिकट बांट रहा था, किसका नाम आना चाहिए, व्हाट इज द रियलिटी, असलियत क्या है। क्या दिल्ली बनाम लखनऊ बीजेपी में एक लड़ाई शुरू हो गई है और लखनऊ बनाम लखनऊ केपी मौर्य वर्सेस योगी आदित्यनाथ?
देखिए पर बीजेपी के भीतर एक तरीके से तलवारें तो खींची हुई, इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं। और दिल्ली बनाम लखनऊ या लखनऊ बनाम लखनऊ, ये चर्चा चुनाव के पहले से भी चल रही है और अब ये चुनाव के बाद थोड़ी खुल करके भी सामने आ गई। योगी आदित्यनाथ मुख्यमंत्री उत्तर प्रदेश ने अगर ये कहा है कि अति आत्मविश्वास की वजह से हुआ है, तो अति आत्मविश्वास किसका है? उन्होंने सीधे सीधे एक तरीके से संगठन पर सवाल उठाए हैं। अति आत्मविश्वास का मतलब ये कि आखिर टिकट बांटने वाले लोग कौन थे, किन्होंने टिकट बांटा? उनका सीधा मानना जो हमें समझ में आ रहा है वो ये है कि अति आत्मविश्वास का मतलब संगठन है। और उन्होंने कई बातें कही हैं, एक बात और भी कही है उसमें कि बीजेपी के खिलाफ जो नैरेटिव बनाया गया उसका जवाब क्यों नहीं दे पाई बीजेपी के कार्यकर्ता।
So in an interesting way, as Kumar Abhishek, unfortunately we've lost his line, seems to suggest that there is this war within, that war could intensify, many believe, in the weeks and months ahead. Remember, there are question marks over how tickets were distributed by the BJP in the state of Uttar Pradesh. We'll keep tracking that story. Let's turn from there to our Get Real India story, where residents are seeing red over markings on houses near a river bed in Lucknow. The fear is that their homes, in which they have been living for decades, will be demolished by bulldozers. The residents of these localities on floodplains stand united and say they will fight for their homes, seeking justice and clarity from authorities. Will the bulldozer be back? It's our Get Real India story.
कसम खुदा के बड़े तजुर्बे से कहती हूँ, कसम खुदा के बड़े तजुर्बे से कहती हूँ, घर बनाने में सदियों लग जाते हैं पर उजाड़ने में एक पल भी नहीं लगता। कैसे कहाँ जाएंगे हम लोग? बताइए, कहाँ से जाएंगे? हमारे माता पिता इतना घर खड़ा करते हैं, बनवाया है, हम लोग कहाँ जाएंगे? बताइए, कहाँ जाएंगे हम लोग? कहाँ जाएंगे हम लोग? कहाँ जाएंगे?
These children are worried that there won't be a roof over their heads soon. The reason behind this fear, a red mark which has been painted by the Lucknow Development Authority.
ये निशान प्रशासन के द्वारा, एलडीए के द्वारा लगाया जाता है और ये इस बात की दस्तक है कि ये मकान, ये जो दुकान होगी या जो भी निर्माण होगा वो अब गिराने की कगार पर है।
These marks were put on all houses within 50 meters of the green belt of Kukrel riverbed. The fear of demolition gripped residents of the area. They pasted copies of house and land registry documents outside their homes.
It's legal versus the illegal in Lucknow's Pantnagar, where the residents have pasted the stickers of their registry in protest of irrigation department and LDA action, in a way marking the red mark outside their residences, calling them illegal. As you can see the pictures out here, the residents have pasted the pictures, the posters where it's written that we have all the documents, then how it becomes illegal.
सब परेशान हैं, सबके आंसू सूख चुके हैं। अब हम लोग कैसे मकान बनाएंगे? छोटे छोटे बच्चे सब बड़े हो रहे हैं, अब पढ़ाई की उम्र है, उनकी शादी की उम्र है, हम लोग कहाँ जाएंगे?
हम लोग शून्य पे आ गए हैं, हम लोग जीरो पे, हमारे छोटे छोटे बच्चे हैं। अब हम लोग नए से शुरू करेंगे तो कहाँ जाएंगे? बच्चों को पढ़ाएंगे कि उनके लिए कुछ फ्यूचर सोचेंगे? कुछ नहीं सोच सकते हैं हम लोग।
एक ही रात में घर से बेघर कर दे, छोटे छोटे बच्चे लेके कहाँ जाएंगे? बताइए, हम लोग कैसे गृहस्थी शुरू करेंगे? एकदम से छत से आसमान छीन लिया उन लोगों ने।
Earlier, the demolitions were conducted in Akbar Nagar area of Lucknow.
अब तस्वीरें देखें तो आप अंदाजा लगाएंगे कि जिस ओर आपको एक सपाट जमीन नजर आ रही है, वहीं पर बने थे तमाम आशियाने। उन आशियानों के जो टुकड़े हैं वो यहाँ बिखरे पड़े हैं। सवाल ये है कि अगर सब अवैध ही है तो जिस वक्त इस अकबर नगर को या उस पंत नगर को बिजली कनेक्शन लग रहे थे, उस वक्त अधिकारी, प्रशासन और ये सारे विभाग मौन क्यों थे?
According to reports, the red marks were put up by the irrigation department to depict the limits of the Kukrel river floodplain, adding that further action would be taken as per the orders of senior officials after verifying all the documents. With Samarth Srivastav and Santosh Kumar, Bureau Report, India Today.
This is the reality of real India.